He didn't die. The world just stopped being ready for him. I'm only half joking. Because on March 19th, 2026, we lost a man who for over 5 decades made us believe that one person with enough grit, enough heart, and one perfectly thrown roundhouse kick could take on the whole world. And honestly, most of the time he did. Today we're not just mourning Chuck Norris, we're celebrating him. We're talking about the moments, the fights, the roles, the records, the beard, the man who started as a poor kid from a small town in Oklahoma and became a living legend. So buckle up. This is the life of Carlos Ray Norris, the man the world called Chuck, born March 10th, 1940, in Ryan, Oklahoma. His dad? A mechanic and bus driver who struggled with alcoholism. His mom? A deeply religious woman who held the family together with prayer and sheer stubbornness. They didn't have much. They moved constantly, Oklahoma to California. No money, no connections, no safety net. Chuck was shy as a kid. Quiet. He wasn't the biggest guy on the block. He wasn't the loudest voice in the room. Nobody looked at young Carlos Ray Norris and said, "That guy is going to become an icon." That's what makes his story so powerful, because the transformation didn't happen overnight. It started with a decision, and that decision happened 10,000 miles from home. Chuck graduates high school, enlists in the United States Air Force. He's 18 years old. He gets posted as a security policeman, called an air policeman back then, and finds himself stationed at Osan Air Base in South Korea. And that's where it happened. That's where the quiet boy from Oklahoma stumbled into a judo training session and thought, "I want to do that." He started training. Every day, every chance he got. Then he discovered Tang Soo Do, a Korean martial art. And something clicked. Not just physically, something deeper. Years later, Chuck would say that martial arts didn't just change his body, it changed his whole identity. It gave him confidence, purpose, discipline. When he came home from the Air Force in 1962, he wasn't the shy kid anymore. He was something else entirely. Now, most people know Chuck Norris from movies and TV. But before all of that, he was one of the greatest competition fighters on the planet. We're talking a professional record of 183 wins, 10 losses, 2 draws, 6-time undefeated world professional middleweight karate champion. 6 times. From 1968 to 1974, nobody beat him. He competed barefoot on tournament floors across America, and he was methodical, precise, devastating. And it wasn't just karate. By the time his career was done, Chuck Norris held black belts across multiple disciplines, a 10th degree black belt in his own system, Chun Kook Do, a 9th degree in Tang Soo Do, an 8th degree in Taekwondo, making him the first person in the entire Western Hemisphere to ever achieve that rank. First person, ever. And he was the very first person to ever be voted into the Black Belt Hall of Fame. This wasn't a movie character, this was real. The legend was earned. Now, we have to talk about Bruce Lee, because without Bruce Lee there might not have been the Chuck Norris the world came to know. These two men met in the late 1960s. Both were martial artists. Both were obsessed with the craft. They trained together, sparred together, pushed each other. Bruce Lee later invited Chuck to appear in his 1972 film, The Way of the Dragon, and the scene they created together, the Roman Colosseum. Two of the greatest martial artists on the planet. No CGI, no stunt doubles for the real stuff. Just Lee and Norris. circling each other in one of the most iconic fight sequences ever put on film. Chuck plays the villain, Colt. And even losing the fight, he carries himself with such real, physical presence and respect that audiences were captivated. Here's what made it special. Bruce Lee actually wanted Norris to look formidable. Because he was. And Chuck has spoken about that friendship with such genuine warmth over the years. He said Bruce Lee was one of the most extraordinary human beings he'd ever met. That scene at the Colosseum? It changed everything. It launched Chuck Norris as a face people wanted to see on screen. This was Chuck's era. Nobody, and I mean nobody, owned the action genre the way Chuck Norris did in those years. Good guys wear black. The Octagon. An eye for an eye. Code of silence. Lone Wolf McQuade. These weren't just movies, they were events. He had a formula that just worked. Take a real human being who could genuinely fight, put him against impossible odds, and watch him dismantle everything in his path. But the defining films, missing in action. Chuck plays Colonel James Braddock, a Vietnam POW who escapes and goes back to rescue other American prisoners left behind. It was raw, it was relentless, it resonated. The film was so popular, they made 3 of them. And then came the Delta Force in 1986. Chuck rides a missile-equipped motorcycle through enemy lines. An actual motorcycle with rocket launchers. It is one of the most gloriously over-the-top action sequences of the entire decade, and it is absolutely perfect. September 1993. Walker, Texas, Ranger. Every Saturday night, tens of millions of Americans tuned in to watch Cordell Walker, a Texas Ranger with a cowboy hat, a Cherokee heritage, and a right leg that seemed to have its own gravitational force, bring justice to the Lone Star State. The show ran for 8 seasons, 196 episodes. It became one of the most watched dramas in the world. And at the center of it all was Chuck Norris, producing it, starring in it, pouring his actual martial arts philosophy into every episode. Now listen, let's be honest about this show. It was not The Wire. The plots were sometimes, let's call them straightforward. But here's what Walker had that almost nothing else had. Heart. Real, uncomplicated, sincere heart. Walker believed in justice. He believed in second chances. He believed in doing the right thing even when it cost you something. And then he'd throw a roundhouse kick and put 5 guys through a table. The roundhouse kick. That was the signature. That was the promise the show made every single episode, and it delivered every single time. Whether it was 1 guy or 10, whether it was a biker bar or a dojo or the middle of a Texas highway. The kick was coming, and it was glorious. Okay, we have to talk about Chuck Norris facts, because somewhere in the mid-2000s the internet discovered that Chuck Norris was a meme before memes were even a thing. And suddenly the jokes were everywhere. Chuck Norris doesn't do push-ups. He pushes the earth down. Chuck Norris has already been to Mars. That's why there's no life there. Death once had a near Chuck Norris experience. Now, here's what I love about this. Chuck could have hated it. He could have ignored it. He could have been offended. Instead, he embraced it. He laughed at himself. He played along. He starred in Super Bowl commercials, riffing on the whole thing. And in doing so, he introduced himself to an entirely new generation who might never have watched Walker or Missing in Action. He stayed relevant. He stayed human. That kind of self-awareness, that's rare, especially for someone who had that much earned toughness. But here's what often got lost in all the action sequences and the jokes and the kicks. The real Chuck Norris. A man who grew up poor and became the first in his family to build something lasting. A man who created not just a career but an entire martial arts system, Chun Kuk Do, built around a code of conduct emphasizing integrity, loyalty, and respect for others. A man who founded the Kickstart Kids program in 1990, putting martial arts instructors in Texas schools to mentor at-risk youth. By 2026, that program had touched the lives of over 150,000 kids. 150,000. That's not a movie role, that's a life's work. He was devoted to his wife Gina for over 25 years, staying by her side when she became seriously ill and requiring constant care. He stepped back from the spotlight without a second thought. Because that's who he was off camera. Faithful, loyal, strong in the ways that actually matter. His daughter said after he passed that to the world, he was a tough guy and an icon. But to them, he was just Dad. And Dad made everything feel safe. Chuck Norris was born on March 10th, 1940. He left us on March 19th, 2026. 86 years. From a one-stoplight town in Oklahoma to the halls of martial arts history. From the Air Force bases of South Korea to the Roman Colosseum with Bruce Lee. From the jungles of Vietnam, on screen at least, to the dusty roads of Texas. A karate champion, an action hero, a mentor, a father, a legend. He was the kind of figure that only comes along once in a generation, someone who is so genuinely, authentically themselves that the whole world can't help but respond to it. He didn't become iconic because of a slick PR campaign or a lucky break. He became iconic because he worked, because he fought, because he got knocked down in competitions, in life, and got back up. Every single time. And now, somewhere out there, someone is watching Walker, Texas Ranger, for the very first time. Some kid is seeing that roundhouse kick and thinking, I want to be that. And that's the thing about legends. They don't really leave, they just keep echoing. Rest easy, Chuck. You've earned it. One riot. One ranger.